On now, in Thailand, demonstrators have been on the streets demanding Prime Minister Prayuth Chan-ocha's resignation. Thousands of people demonstrated in the centre of Thailand's capital, Bangkok, on Sunday. This was the first demonstration since the Thai Prime Minister ignored protesters' deadline to resign. Thailand's parliament has now begun a special session on Monday, which was called to address the prolonged tensions in the country. The non-voting session of parliament is expected to last 2 days, for which only 450 of the total 731 members of both houses had signed in.
ผมเองในนามของรัฐบาลในนามรัฐมนตรีรู้ว่าทุกอย่างอาจจะต้องเปลี่ยนแปลงไปตามกาลเวลาของโลกปัจจุบันโลกแห่งเทคโนโลยีโลกแห่งดิจิทัลแต่เราต้องยอมรับนะครับว่าในประเทศไทยของเราคนจำนวนหลายล้านหลาย10 ล้านคนนะครับก็ไม่อยากเห็นการเปลี่ยนแปลงในขณะที่เกิดความวุ่นวายสับสนโอลหม่านนะทุกคนก็มีความเชื่อของตัวเองเขาเห็นเขาเชื่อมาตลอดชีวิตของเขาเพราะนั้นเราจะต้องมีความสมดุลระหว่างความต้องการของแต่ละคนกับความต้องการของคนอื่นๆในสังคมด้วยได้
The protesters, however, have little confidence in the parliamentary path as they declared the government's efforts insincere. It was also the first major show of force since the Prime Minister lifted the October 15th emergency measures that had been meant to stop 3 months of protest against the government and the monarchy. And now the demonstrators plan to petition Germany to investigate King Maha Vajiralongkorn's use of powers while he has been staying in the European country. Thai pro-democracy protesters have also planned a march to the German embassy, which is a symbolic location to highlight the long period of time that the king spends in Germany. The pro-democracy protesters haven't been deterred by emergency measures imposed earlier, nor has the crackdown dented their spirits. The protests have been raging for over 3 months, with the resignation of the Thai Prime Minister as a central demand. Protesters want Thai Prime Minister Prayuth Chan-ocha's resignation, the amendment of the constitution, and reforms to the monarchy to have it conform to the democratic norms. We are now being joined live by Matthias Peer, who is a Southeast correspondent based in Bangkok. Thank you so much for joining us. Protesters are demanding Prime Minister's resignation, and he even ignored the deadline that was previously set by these protesters. What do you think will be the consequences of this? Of course, there are protests now, but what do you think will happen going forward?
So yeah, obviously the protesters, they are not satisfied with the Prime Minister's reaction. Prime Minister Prayuth Chan-ocha, he now tries to take down the political temperature a little bit by the extraordinary session in Parliament for 2 days. The members of Parliament will debate the issue right now, and Prime Minister Prayuth has called on the protesters to respect the parliamentary process. But I think most of the protesters, they are not very confident that there will be any significant outcome in Parliament. They expect more words than actions. There will be no vote in Parliament after this session. So the only outcome that could happen is that the members of Parliament will have some suggestions of how to solve this crisis. But what the government will do after that, that remains still open.
All right, I was actually going to come to that next. But now the demonstrators plan to petition Germany to investigate King Maha Vajiralongkorn's use of his powers. What can be expected in that regard?
Yeah, that is very interesting because, as you know, King Maha Vajiralongkorn, he used to spend a lot of his time in Germany. He's now at the moment in Thailand since, I think, 2 weeks. But it already caused some diplomatic rifts between Germany and Thailand, this situation. We've heard at the beginning of October that the German Foreign Minister Heiko Maas said that he does not want the Thai king to use his powers from Germany and to rule Thailand from German soil. Now the protesters are asking Germany to investigate that situation and to check if the king has done that in the past or if he hasn't. And so this is a very interesting situation also for the German government right now.
All right, but also going forward, do you think a reform is likely?
at the moment it doesn't look like it, especially with regards to the monarchy. This is one of the three main demands of the protesters, to reform the monarchy. But we've already heard today in Parliament that the Speaker of the House in Parliament said that he does not want to discuss the monarchy at all. So there is significant resistance still among the people in power here in Thailand, who don't want to touch the issue of the monarchy at all at the moment. There might be some openness to change the constitution, but this will be a long process and also a very difficult process, because the 250 senators in the upper house of the parliament, who were handpicked by the military junta just a few years ago, also they have to agree on changes of the constitution, and that will be incredibly difficult.
All right. All right, Matthias, thank you so much for joining us with all those details. We will definitely continue to track this very closely.